Hi, welcome back to the Impassioned Caregiver. So if you didn't join us last week, you can go back to the first vlog. It's called We Can Be Heroes. In case I forgot to tell you, this is all based on a true story, as you can imagine, but of course the names have been changed. So, and none of this would have been possible without the support of my terrific husband. So today's chapter is called How I Came Down with My Role. So if we're going to have a relationship, which I want us to have, I think a tiny bit more information is needed. So here we go. Oops, one more thing. I'm going to be putting footnotes in the comments for some of the things. So when that occurs, I'm going to do this, and you'll know to look in the comments. So this chapter is all about reflecting on how being the responsible one began. Was it being the middle child, being the only girl in between two boys? You know, the cute word of our time is dandelion child. It describes someone who can grow anywhere, you know, a kid, no matter what chaos is happening around them. That definitely describes me. Right now, I feel like I hardly have any seeds left. You know, those cool dandelion flower heads, seed heads. So, you know, I was a child of an alcoholic, so paying attention to detail and being hyper vigilant comes natural. Those childhood occurrences led me to become a fixer-doer like my father. You know, for better or worse, I'm half Italian and you know our reputation. Maybe I just inherited the role of fixer. So, you know, fixer is someone who has a network of contacts to facilitate crime and possibly to cover up crime. But my fixing, it's not crime at all. I'm going to put you in touch with someone who can get you whatever you need. You know, the right foundation, maybe insurance info, lawyers, or connection to make your life easier. So many people never take action. For better or worse, that does not describe me. Full disclosure, I've been called controlling, bossy, a bitch, the Sarge, you name it. But when someone needs advice, who do they come to? Me. Hey, it's true, it's true. You know, I give all that tough love. So, family facts. My parents lived with my dad's mom for 10 years before they got married. Saint, along with knighthood, should be given to my mother. My grandma, you know, my Nona, was a very harsh woman. To be fair, she was shipped to the United States for an arranged marriage. So, you know, she wasn't a caretaker. She refused to go to the hospital when her husband was dying. She sent my dad to see her mate off to the other side. But what she did know how to do was work through difficulties. So her husband was a cheater, a beater, then got ill and couldn't work. So in old age, my grandmom took public transportation by herself to the sweatshops of Philadelphia in order to bring the needed cash into the household. And then my father converted my grandfather's shoe shop into an Italian water ice stand. And they sold soft pretzels too. Delicious when you go to Philly. So in order to avoid losing our house during the Depression, my grandmom took in boarders from Italy. It wasn't all about money. You know, she mentored them. She helped them become acclimated into the new country. Oh, wait then, my prior statement that she didn't care isn't totally accurate. So before being one of the earliest forms of Airbnb, my aunt and uncle handled everything for my grandparents. You know, neither of them learned English. As my Aunt Angie would say, she was born old out of the womb. Angie paid the bills, did all the translating, handled everything so her two younger brothers could have it easier. So it was in this Philly home where I first learned to embrace death along with things that make people, well, most people, uncomfortable. The basement was home to a mouse colony. My mother loves telling this story. I wouldn't hesitate to go down those dark basement stairs to take the mouse traps filled with the deceased little critters to throw them away, all at 3 years of age. So maybe this is why eventually I volunteered with hospice. I'm really not sure, but my mother loved to tell that story. So when my mom's mom died, it was the first corpse I ever saw. So at her funeral, all the cousins, dared each other to touch her or kiss her. It was all our first time of seeing someone who's gone. Of course, I did both. So my parents finally saved enough money to get their own home. They moved just outside of Philadelphia and bought what's called a twin. It's like a row house, but just 2 buildings together, sharing one common wall, instead of blocks and blocks of connected houses. So in the other half of the twin lived our neighbor, Aunt Stevie. And our family, like so many others, close friends, and earned that honorific. So Aunt Stevie had 4 kids, a dog, and a bedridden husband. So 4 years old, that was the first time I really saw a caregiving situation. Stevie would tend to his needs, then walk to her job at the local factory, puffing out smoke from her cigarettes as much as the chimneys from her workplace. Sucking those sticks down to the filter, that was her self-care.